Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to implement lab 3.5.7 from DevNet Associate course from Cisco. This lab is about creating a Python unit test. But before starting the lab, I would like to mention or remind you of some points. So the first one is why you need or what is a code review and why you need to do it. Before you send your code to the reviewers, I always remind you to keep your code easy to read, easy to understand, and also um, keeping coding best practices in a form format, free of bugs, commented, and clean. So the process will be easy or easier for the reviewers, and also you will get less reviews. So the process depicted in this figure. So the author sends the code to the reviewers comments, and the comments or reviews sends back to the reviewer, to the author, and the author of course fixes the code and then send it again to the reviewers. The reviewers then might be comments again, and the loop starting in this form. And finally, when everything is fine, this is the final code and you can then publish it. So to recap here, you have to always keep your code clean, easy to understand, and concise. Okay, so I think now we can return to the lab. And in this lab, this lab shows you how to find an issue in a function. Actually, the goal is to find the problem if it is in the function itself or it's in the larger pro application that may call this function. Okay, so this task will be done by writing a unit test that exposed this issue. And in part 1, this is the usual one, you have to use this virtual machine. So this is the usual one, so I will skip it, and then you need to explore options in the unit test framework. So here, that even you already know Python, it might happen that you still don't know the unit test framework. So it is recommended here to stop this video and search on Google about Python unit test framework. Then after you get a view about this framework, then you can come back here and continue this video. Before that, you have questions, like you should be able to answer these questions. However, these questions will be answered, and you will find the file in the description box. So let's see the first question. What unit test class do you use to create an individual unit for testing? So here there is a class called test case, which may be used to create a new test case. So here it is test case, which is under the unit test from Python framework. And the second one here, what command will list all the commands line options for unit test option in the following output. So what command you can use to have the following output? Let's do this together. So here the command is Python 3. This is for run Python, then -m, and then unit test, and then -h for help. As you can see here, we have this output here. So in part 3, test a Python function with Unittest. So in this part, we are going to use Unittest to test a function that performs a recursive search on a JSON file. So we will need a JSON file and we are going to test a function. This function returns a recursive search of JSON object. As you already know, the JSON object here is in form like key and value. So we are going to give a key and then we are expecting receiving a value. What we need in this lab, we need actually three files. The first one is the file in which the recursive function is written, and this one here we are going to write the function. And we need, of course, the data, and it is in test data.python, and it's a JSON file or JSON format. And here we need, of course, to make the file for the function. It's nice to here notice that starting with test underscore, because this unit test, as you already know after you did the research on Google, unit test searches on all the files in the directory starting with test underscore. So when we are going to run unit test framework, it's going to search about this one here and this one here because they are started with test underscore. So what we need, these three files, let's check them on the system. I'm going to search to reach them from this form, labs, and then unit test. And here we have the three files. The first one, here we are going to write the function. Now it's empty, as you see. Here we need the data, and as you can see, it is in the form of dictionary. And here we have a key, and here we have a value. Please note also that it might happen that we have a key in this form and the value in a form of a list. So it is a recursive form. Okay, and here we have two keys at the beginning, and here we are expecting to receive the values. And here we have the test JSON search, which will be used by the unit test framework. And as you can see now, it's still empty. Okay, so let's return back to the instructions, and here we need to review the test data.python. I already did this, and also you can do this using the command line interface. So let's check it here. Here we have the three files, and let's check the data. We are going to use more. Here we have the data, as you can see. In the second step, we need to create a JSON search function that it is needed to be tested. So the function is already written here. I'm going to copy paste it to the file itself. And in this form, I'm going to use vim. As you can see here, we need to fill the Python code. We are going to delete this. Then let's copy. So let's check the indentations. So here we have, let's do it in this form, so it could be easier. escape, and then let's save the modification. Write quit with exclamation mark, and let's see if the file has errors like indentations errors. So we are going to test it, Python 3, and then recursive JSON search, and as you can see there, it works and there are no indentations errors. So let's check the file there. Now we go there one more time. As you can see, this is the file here. By the way, you can easily copy paste it using graphical user interface from here. You are free to use the graphical user interface, but I recommend you also to practice with the CLI terminal. Okay, let's close this and let's stand back here. Then let's go back again to the directory. So let's keep going. Here, open the labs file. Okay, I already did this. Copy the code above into the file and save it. I already also did this. Run the code. You should get no error. I have done with this always already. And now let's see what is the problem. Okay, so the problem is here, as you saw, when I already executed the file, I have got nothing. But when we go to the file itself, as you can see here, this is the key number 1, and it is here. So as you can see, there is a key here with issue summary, and I should receive this value when I run. So as you can see here, there is a key which is issue summary, and I should have got this network device 10.10.20.28 is unreachable from the controller. So this is the value. I should receive this one as a value. But when I run the code itself here, I have nothing here. So here is an issue. And we are going to use Unittest framework to detect this issue. We are going to solve this problem or this issue by using Unittest framework. Okay, so let's move forward to step 3. And here we need to create a unit test that will test this function here. So first we need to modify this file, which is test.json search. I'm also going to use vim. And here I need to import first the unit test. And then I import also this from the file recursive JSON search, the function that we just created. From this file we are going to import everything. And we also going to import everything from the test data file. So this is the file in the current directory, and this is also the file in the current directory. So we are imported them here in this test file. Indeed, as you can see, add the following JSON search test class code to the test JSON and then subclass test case. So what actually I'm going to do, I'm going to copy these lines and then I will walk you through each line. So just let's make the indentations as required. So here we need one, we need another one. Okay, so now it's fine. Let's write the quit, or only just write. We don't need to quit because we are going to explain these lines. The first line is, as you can see here, we are creating a class. This class under the name or called JSON search test, and it is a subclass from the superclass Unittest.test case. This superclass test case defines actually some test method to be used in the JSON search function. You only need to keep in your mind or notice here that the test method begins with a test, as you can see here. These methods always started with test, and by this enabling the unit test framework to discover them automatically. So the unit test will discover these methods because they started with a test underscore. So what are these methods? Actually, if you can see here, if we give a key and the key is inside the data itself, so the list should not be empty. If the key is not in the data, so the returned list should be empty. And the third one is to make sure that always their returned value should be a list. So if there is a key, so the list is not empty. If there is no key, then the list should be empty. In both cases, there should be a list in a value or in the returned value. These methods use the assert true, or here we have also assert true, and the last one is assert instance. You can use this here to learn more about is instance. And you can see here it returns if it's object or class info. If it's true, so is instance. True if the object is an instance of subclass, and in this case we checked if there is a list, so we have true, otherwise we have false. So I think here all information you can get or you can learn more about is instance. It is instance is related to object-oriented topic from Python, just to remind you or to give you a hint where you can start to search about this is instance. Okay, so let's return back to the tutorials, and here we need to finally write this code here. Let's copy them also. And use them here. And actually this line, as you can see, this is a special variable in object oriented in Python. And here the name equals main gives whether this program is executed directly, because so when you execute this code from this file itself, so the name will be the main, and then this condition will be true, and then the function will be called, which is Unittest, which is this one. Otherwise, if you import this file to another file and execute the second file, the name will be model, and in this case you are not going to call this function here. And then so in another word, this line here is to check whether the file is executed directly or it's imported to another file and executed from there, where in the second case this file will not be executed because this condition is not going to be true. Okay, let's save this one. Let's keep going and read along the tutorial, and now we need to run the test. So to run this file, we need to run the test file here, and we can run it by this one, which is test JSON Python. And you can see here we have the list printed out empty, and here we have .f. And as you can see here, fail, test search found, main JSON search test, this is the function, and key should be found, return list should not be empty. So here is the problem that we have. There is a key and the list return list should not be empty because we already have the key already in the file and we should get a value. Okay, so here we have like trace most of the information. Assertion false is not true, and then we run 3 tests in 0.001 second. So this is pass, this is fail, this is also pass. Okay, if you think now that the first one here, this is like for the first test function, which is search Python search found here, is pass, and the second one, this one failed, and the third one pass, like you in this order. So my friend, I would like to, you are mistaken, because by the Unity class framework doesn't consider this or this point like you think, but here is considered alphabetically. So the first one here should be according to the alphabetical order. So here, as you can see, test is, and this is also test search, and this is test search. Since here I is before S, so this one, the first one was here, and this is pass. The second one, we have now this one and this one. Since we have here test search is still the same, and F and M, so F before N, so this is the second one, and this is here failed. And the third one is this one, which was also passed. So this one, what we have here, as you can see, the key should be found, return list should not be empty, and this is the message what we have here. So from here we can know from this three characters that we are we know now that this function is not working as expected, so we are going now to fix it according to this result here. So let's see what is the problem. Keep in mind the problem that we have a key, but we have an empty list. I'm going to open now a new terminal, and now let's check the file contains the function, and let's start again to review this file here. So what is going on here, that actually we have return value, which is the list, and here we have the return and we are append. So here we are going to append everything to the list and then we return back. The problem here is that this one is fine because we need to append to the list if the key is there. But the problem is that each time we are calling the function, this return value, the list or accumulated result, is deleted. Because we are here like creating a new one and all the values inside this return value will be deleted. So what we are going to do here, we are going to put here the return value above the function. So we, in this case, we will make sure that each time we are calling the function, the accumulated result are still in the list itself. So there is no overwritten here. Okay, so now we need to write and quit, or just we need to write because we already execute the file from another terminal, and here we need to run the file again one more time. So as you can see here, we have first one passed, the second one passed, but now we have another method failed. Which one? Which is key should not be found, should return an empty list. So now we have a problem with another method, which in this case, when there is no the third one, which is this one, key should not be found, should return an empty list, and here is the problem. So we are going now to also test this. Okay, so let's keep going and check the second problem. So here what you can see that we managed to fix the first problem, but now we made the return value or this list is a global variable. And here, so we called this function two times. The first one with the key that's already there, and it was, we have a data there. And the second one, which was, if I will check it back again here, let's check the data. So the first key is already there, but the second key is not inside this JSON data. So here in the first invocation we should have a value, in the second invocation we shouldn't have a value. So that's why we have got here the problem that in the second case we should not have a value because the key is not there. So actually what we need to do here, according to the tutorial, we are going to wrap up the function to be in our function here, and then we define a function and JSON search at the beginning. We are sending the key, and then we sending input object. The input object we are calling it is the data, which is here, this one from the JSON file. So this is the data here, and then we are sending the key here, as you can see. So what is there? So we are calling the function accordingly. This is to avoid the global variable here, and we defined another function which is called the inner function, which accepts two parameters. The first one is the key, the second one input object, in case this is the data on the key. And then this is the case when there is a key in the data itself. Otherwise, it returns nothing from the beginning. When there is the key, when the key is not in the data itself. So here we are for if instance. So if in form of dictionary, we are returning back the data. So if there is a dictionary, so there is a key and there is a value, as you can see here, and we are putting the key in the key, and then we put the temperature key value in the temp, and then we append to the return list. Okay, if v is also, so the value is another dictionary, which is a nested form. So we have a key and we have another dictionary in the value. So in this case, we are also returning the key and the value from them. Or if when there is a key and the value is a list, so also we are checking this and we return back a list in the value. So we are returning three forms. The first one is the value itself. The second one, if it's a dictionary, so there is a key and there is a value, and the value is a dictionary. The third form, when there is a key and there is a value and the value is a list, so we are also returning a list, and as you can see here, there is a mixed. So this is here as, for example, this is a list here according to the steps as a key, and there is another list here, or only a value, or only another dictionary. So let's copy this one here and put it in the file. Then let's put the new format. We also need to keep in mind the indentations. So we Shift and V to select the lines, go up, and then the direction or angle bracket to the left, and then again I can do this in this form. And here we need to select again the indentations. So we need one. Hopefully it's nice. It's okay now. Let's call the function again. We have here a problem with the indentations. Okay, one more time. And as you can see here, now we have three dots. That means that the first method passed, the second passed, the third one is also passed. So the problem was here with the indentations. Okay, so we have 3 run tests in 0 seconds. Everything is okay. And let's check what's more. Save the file and run unit test on the directory. You don't need to name you don't need the name of the file. This is because the unit test discovery feature will run any local file and find whose name will begin test, and you test them. We already know that. And we have here the output, as we can see here from the file. If you have any questions or queries about this task or this lab, please feel free to contact me. Thanks and see you next video.